Now we're ready for the slab technique. So we've done the pinch technique where you use basically your hands and the digging tool. We have the coil technique where you make a base first and you roll out the long snakes for the coil technique. We had score and slip, which go together, where you use a wooden modeling tool with the teeth to make the grooves, and you use the toothbrush to make the slip in order to have your clay get attached together. So now we're ready for slabs. So I'll show you a couple different ways to do the slab technique. One way is just to take your clay and on your plastic bag, or in this case I have canvas, you can just go through and you can tap it several times to get it into a cube or a block type shape like this. And then we're going to use the fettling knife. This is made for clay. You cannot get cut with this. It's not like an X-Acto knife. So I'll show you how this works. And we want slabs, again, to be about a ½ inch thick. So again, you can use one of these plastic rulers. It can be as exact as you want. I'll mark about every ½ inch on here in order to cut a few slabs on there. So the fettling knife won't quite fit in the water bowl very well, so you want to take and rub some water on here. And then you want to use more than just like one hand when you cut this, otherwise you can go off at an angle really easy. So I would take and use two hands so you can push it straight down a lot better this way. Kind of like slicing a block of cheese or a big loaf of bread. Cut off a few slabs here. About every couple cuts you want to kind of get the filling knife wet again so it doesn't get stuck. Always good to wet your clay tools, that way they won't get stuck in the clay and just tear it. They'll just actually just slice through it. So it's always good to have your tools dipped in the water. All right, so I made some slabs here. Just going to kind of show you how this works then. So we can use one piece for a base. And as you can see, just to kind of show you how the technique would work, is you have the bottom piece and then the other parts would stack up to make the walls like that. You can see how it does not hold together at all. So just kind of to show you again about how scoring and slipping works. All right, so I'm going to take the wooden modeling tool here, going to put some scoring here, and I'm going to put some scoring here as well. Okay, take the toothbrush, tap off most of the water, a little bit of water here, a little bit of water here. I'm going to take that, and then we're going to attach these together. Apply a little bit of pressure. Remember, we want to score and slip, so we're not just like shoving the clay together like this, or like this, or like this. It's not going to hold as well. We're going to have it go like this. And like I mentioned, it's like how we learned how to do blending of paint as well, like that. So a little bit of pressure, and you always want to use a little pressure so you're not putting it together just a little bit. You want to get it put together like all the way completely attached. Okay, and now as you can see, it will hold together. So now you can say, oh, Mr. Canute, I guess it really does work. The scoring and slip really does work to hold my clay together. Yeah, so there you go. And again, we can use the flexible rubber rib. We dip this in the water, support it on the inside, and then we can actually grab some clay with a sharp edge, scrape it either up like this, or we can scrape it down like that. Get a nice really tight seal, going to make it much better for glazing. And by the time you do that, you can hardly even tell how you even attached it and built it. So that's one way to do slabs. Okay, move that out of the way. Another way to do slabs is taking your clay, and we've got a couple of little stretcher strips of wood here, about a ½ inch thick. What we should be using and how we should be constructing our clay, so it's thick and strong, about a ½ inch, not thin and flimsy, and a rolling pin. So what we're going to do, move the water out of the way here, and we're going to go ahead and roll this out to make a slab this way. You want to make sure the rolling pin touches these wooden stretcher strips or wooden slats. Say it pretty much either way. So we get this rolled out pretty much exactly perfectly a ½ inch thick. And then there's things you can do to make your slab. So what I did for the round circle for the coils is I just simply took a peanut butter jar lid, pushed it in like that, I didn't push it in all the way, otherwise you could actually punch out like a cookie cutter and get stuck inside, and then we'd probably ruin it trying to carve it out. And then I simply got a felling knife wet, okay, cut around it, and then I had my round circle in order to make a round coil cup or box. So that's one way. Another way, shown on this side, you can simply use your ruler, and you can draw any kind of shape you want to draw. You can be as precise as you want and say, well, I want to do a 3.5 by 3.5 and by 3.5 inch triangle. You can actually use the measurements on here. I'm just going to kind of draw to kind of show you what I mean by just doing other shapes. So maybe I'm going to do a triangle shaped cup. Remember, cups and boxes can be any shape you want. A lot of people think, oh, a cup's got to be round and a box has to be like square or rectangular, but no, you don't have to do that. You could have a round box and you could have a triangle shaped cup. So then there's a triangle, and then I would get my felling knife wet, cut this out, and then I could have a triangle shaped base for my cup, for example. And I could do coils, I could do slabs. So this is another way that you can do slabs as well. So we pretty much covered pinch technique, where you're using your hands and the digging tool. Coils, where you're rolling out the snakes. Scoring and slipping, where you're applying the grooves and the water with the toothbrush in order to make the slip, for score and slip. And then how to do the slabs, getting your clay into a block or using the rolling pin and stretcher strips. All right, so I kind of want to go over cleanup a little bit here. Very important. When you go to clean the tools off, we have some blue bowls over on the counter. You want to make sure you get all the clay scraped off in the water in the blue bowls, and then these just go back in the container, which I will do in a little bit. Okay, water bowl, you're going to go to the sink, put your hand under it, so when you dump this in the sink, only the water goes in the sink. The little pieces of clay that are probably going to be floating at the bottom, then you can dump the rest of it into the blue bowl, and then put this back in the right container as well. Your banding wheel. Okay, all your clay is going to go on your banding wheel. So I just kind of put it all on here, kind of show you how this gets put away. I went ahead and showed you in reverse to start with. Get it all on here. Damp paper towels, you get them wet. Make sure you squeeze all the water out of them. Okay, and then you have your plastic bag. Clay goes in the plastic bag. Make sure you get all the air out as well. And the paper towels are in case you have a hole or a little rip or a little slit cut in your bag so it won't dry out. Twist the air out, tuck it underneath. Make sure your name tag shows and it goes over in the corner of the room where I got it from. That's where we're storing our clay. Your table. You're probably going to have some clay on the table, which I have here. It might be kind of difficult to see, but I've got a little bit of a kind of a clay dust like along here as well. So what you do to clean the table off is you go to the sink, you get a damp sponge, which I have here, and what you're doing basically is you're re-moistening the clay, but basically that's what it's doing is kind of re-moistening it, and it's getting like smeared like all over the table. So the key then is while it's still wet, you take a dry paper towel and you dry off your table. So the key is not to make a flood on your table with the sponge, it's how well you dry it off. So you get damp sponge, go over your table, then you got to dry it off while it's still wet, and that removes all the clay from the table. So cleanup is very important, not just the actual working with the clay itself. And then when we have lids like such as this, though, they also get put back with the tools as well. So there you have it. I've pretty much covered everything you need to know. Have fun with clay. Make sure that you practice at least a full period, and then we'll get started with your final cup or box that you're going to make, and with the theme that we've chosen for the trimester.